On behalf of the Connellsville Area Falcon Foundation, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to Connellsville Area High School. Thank you for being here as we introduce another outstanding class of our Connellsville Area School District Hall of Fame. This is the 13th class since the Falcon Foundation started this Hall of Fame back in 2010. This is the second year that we've held our program here at the high school. We did it for the first time last year as an emergency plan due to the ongoing COVID problem. Afterwards, in discussing the situation, it seemed that we actually preferred being here over being up at the Career and Technical Center where we had been before. It allows our audience to spread out. There's certainly a lot of parking out front, and also this is where our Hall of Fame display is located. I'd like to tell you all a little bit about the Falcon Foundation. This organization was founded in 2006 as a support group for our school district. We fundraise for purposes such as issuing grants to teachers for special projects in their classrooms. We present several scholarships at graduation time to seniors with the criteria being school and community service. The scholarships are called the Kenneth James Memorial Scholarship in memory of our longtime president, Kenny James. Ken devoted a lot of time and effort to our school and our community. We also help the district with some larger purchases that provide special learning experiences for our students, often pertaining to new technology that becomes available. I'd like to mention Scottdale Bank of Connellsville for its generous support of the Falcon Foundation through the years. A lot that we've been able to do is because of what Scottdale Bank has done for us. The purpose of this Hall of Fame is twofold. First and foremost, it's always appropriate and worthwhile for high achievers to be recognized for what they accomplish. However, even more important than that, in an educational setting, students need examples to look up to and to provide motivation. Our class of 6 this year are extremely high achievers and excellent role models for the students at Connellsville Area High School. These 6 people are all difference makers, and they represent so many positive things. Things like science, especially science to defeat one of our greatest enemies, cancer. Many other important concepts stand out within this class, like public service, military service, athletic achievement, success in business, religious leadership, and educational leadership. 4 of our honorees are in education, 3 on the college level. There also have been some very unique ideas and projects by this class. How about making an effort to publish 2 booklets on our local service people? One regarding those who were killed in action during World War II, and a second, those killed in conflicts the United States has been in since World War II. And then beyond that, leading an effort to upgrade our local people to provide a new Veterans Memorial in the north end of Connellsville. This Hall of Fame class is even represented in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we'll learn all about a lot of this as we go on. I must say our honorees have done some traveling to get here today. They've come from California, New Mexico, Georgia, Maryland, Bullskin Township. One of our honorees is deceased. Our class is spread out time-wise, with the oldest member of the class being graduated in 1937 from the old school on Fairview Avenue, and our youngest member graduating in 1993 from right here on Falcon Drive. We have 4 members who graduated as Copers and only 2 who graduated as Falcons, and there are no Dunbar Mules this year. This time we'd like to introduce our class, and for right now I'm just going to ask them to stand, and I'll also mention who their presenter will be, and then we have a few more things to talk about, and then we'll hear from them. First of all, Dr. Georj Lewis, graduate in 1989. Georj now lives in Marietta, Georgia. His presenter will be Kenny Washington. Now, ordinarily, we'd go strictly by alphabetical order, but tonight we made an exception. There are a lot of guys here that played football with George, and pretty nice that they would come here to be with him as he's being honored. Some of them are coaches, and because they need to get back down to the stadium, we'll move George ahead a little bit. One thing I want to make clear: when you guys leave to go coach, you're not taking George with you. I worry about getting George down there and trying to put a uniform on him. In any event, that George Lewis will be our first call to the podium. Next, we have Joe Galiardi. Joe is a 1953 graduate of Connellsville High School. I guess he would also be down on Fairview Avenue. Joe is from Cupertino, California. Shauna Little will be Joe's presenter. Next, we have Dr. David L. Geary, Connellsville High School, 1965. Comes from Tijeras, New Mexico. Now, Bill Wilson, our Falcon Foundation president, was supposed to be the presenter, but he has a family emergency, so James Inductees is going to do double duty. She will be the presenter for Dr. Geary. Next, we have Judy Keller, Connellsville High School, 1965. She lives in Holston Township. James Sandusky will also present Judy. I want to mention this. We have two in a row from the class of 1965. In our 13 years in having this Falcon Foundation, we've only had one other year where we had two honorees from the same graduating class. Back in 2010, when we first started this Hall of Fame, we had two from class of 1942, Johnny Lujak and John Wally Shorter, two great athletes and, of course, great individuals as well. Okay, next we have Krista L. Kinneer. Krista's from the CAHS, 1993. She now lives in Montgomery Village, Maryland. Beth Polachicchio will be her presenter. And last but not least, Dr. Richard E. Shearer, Connellsville High School, 1937. He's deceased. Actually, he's buried not too far from here in the Hillgrove Cemetery. He will be represented by his daughter, Suzanne Jones, comes to us from West Virginia. And our good friend Andrew Swan will be the presenter for Dr. Shearer. Now, usually when we have this Hall of Fame event, our superintendent of schools likes to be there and to make some comments. And he's not able to be here this year, but he gave me a statement that he wanted to read. Simply says, on behalf of the Board of Education and the entire district, I congratulate you on your induction into the Falcon Foundation Hall of Fame. Your support of the Connellsville School District, your work, and your life's accomplishments serve as an inspiration to the community, to our employees, and most importantly, to the students of our schools. Thank you for all that you have done to make Connellsville proud, and congratulations on this recognition. And signed, Joseph A. Bradley. Okay, thank you very much.
Dr. George Lewis is a 1989 graduate of Connellsville High School. He was nominated for this award by his former teammate and longtime friend, Kevin Shearer. If you look at George's plaque, it seems pretty cut and dried from 1989 until today. It is impressive, but it doesn't really explain who he is. Every life is a journey, and I'd like to take you on George's trip so far. I've known Dr. Lewis, and I tease him about that because I like to call him Doctor. I've known him since he was a baby, as I was friends with his parents and family. In the 33 years since he graduated from high school, his journey has taken some interesting turns. George was an excellent student in high school as a member of the National Honor Society and a three-sport athlete participating in track, basketball, and football. His exceptional skills in football took him to Edinburgh University. On this team, he would earn Freshman of the Year honors his first year, All-Conference and All-American honors in 2 other years, and he was a 4-year starter as a defensive back. Needless to say, George was an amazing football player, and his work led to his induction in the Edinburgh Athletic Hall of Fame in 2006. George began his professional career in finance, but he returned to Edinburgh in 1994 to work in the admissions office. Between 1994 and 1999, he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in counseling and became the director of multicultural programs. George took another professional step in 2002 when he moved to Georgia to take the position of Dean of Students at the Georgia Southern University. During the 10 years spent at GSU, he earned his doctorate of educational leadership. In 2012, he moved to Gary, Indiana, and became Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs at Indiana University Northwest. 2 years later, he moved back to Georgia and accepted the same position, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs at Armstrong State University. George served in this position for 6 years before returning to Georgia Southern University to become Vice President of Student Affairs. In 2019, George moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and became the 4th president of the Metropolitan State College, a position which he currently holds. As you can see, some journeys are straightforward and others have several twists. George's journey took him from Connellsville, Pennsylvania, to Erie, Pennsylvania, to Statesboro, Georgia, to Gary, Indiana, to Savannah, Georgia, back to Statesboro, Georgia, and finally to Atlanta, Georgia. Along the way, he earned a BS in Business and Accounting, an MA in Counseling and Student Personnel, and a doctorate in Educational Leadership. He was recognized by the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators, received the Dean Day Smith Service to Mankind Award, and was inducted into the Edinburgh Football Hall of Fame. His 33 years of traveling since high school have served him well. His career has been, and continues to be, a journey to transform the lives of students. Along the journey, the most significant aspect was meeting and marrying his wife, Ann Shell, whose love, assistance, and support sustained him when he needed it. Together they raised 3 children, Miles, Jasmine, and George II, also known as Tobias, and I'll find out why. And eventually 4 grandchildren, Miles Jr., Taylor, Talia, and Trey. As I said earlier, I knew George before this journey began. I knew that he received the type of parenting which guided him through his formative years, and I know that is why he eventually gravitated into the field of education. Along with this parental guidance, his involvement in sports obviously taught him discipline, patience, preparedness, and achievement. He learned the value of teamwork and cultivating friendships. He and Kevin Shearer have remained close friends their entire lives, as evidenced by the number of people who have come here today to celebrate his induction into the Connellsville Falcon Foundation Hall of Fame. I personally am proud of all of his accomplishments and greatly overjoyed to welcome him into our Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and great privilege to introduce my family friend, Dr. George L. Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I couldn't hear you the first time. Kenny, I didn't realize I moved so many times. I don't know if I'm ever going to pay off a 30-year mortgage. Goodness gracious. Well, thank you very much, Kenny. It's an honor for me to be introduced by you. You've always been a huge supporter. You support all of the Connellsville athletics. I can remember you at all of the basketball games. You knew all the stats. And has my time started yet? I'm sorry, I know I have the time, so I'll try to focus. To my nominator, Mr. Kevin Shearer. Kevin, I don't know how much twisting of the arms of the committee that you have done in order for me to be in this position right now. But in all seriousness, Kevin, I really do appreciate your efforts. It was humbling for me to watch all the work that you have done for somebody else, and that somebody else was me, so I really do appreciate your efforts. To the Connellsville Area School District Falcon Foundation, out of the thousands of people who you could have selected, I'm extremely honored that I'm one of the people that's in that group. So it's definitely an honor for myself and for my family. When these kind of things happen, sometimes you don't think you deserve it. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm not going to give the award back, so I'm very much appreciative of this. To all the guys here, I know there's a group of you sitting in the back. I can't see all of your faces, but to the guys I went to school with and I played football with, and to the class of 1989, and 1989 is definitely representing today. It's such a nice gesture to see all of you here. I know some of you have traveled from across the state just to come see this event this evening, so I really do appreciate that. It was mentioned earlier, some of you need to go coach a football game tonight. And as a former football player, there's not many times that the coaches are absent previous to the game. And so I really appreciate the commitment that you have made to be here to support me this evening. To my family that's here, my wife, and I know she was mentioned earlier, but Proverbs 18:22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord." And so I definitely have a good thing in my wife, and I'm the main beneficiary of this relationship. So Anshel, thank you for being here. I saw my sister Brittany earlier, and nephew Beckham jumping around someplace. I don't think they're still here right now. My in-laws are here, and some of you don't get along with your in-laws. I love my in-laws, and so my in-laws are here today. My bonus mother-in-law, Miss Joyce Wade, and Mr. Donald Wade. Joyce is a retired educator, Albert Gallatin, and Mr. Wade is a man's man, a Vietnam vet, worked in the coal mine for several years on the long wall, and has raised a whole bunch of young ladies in the house. And so Mr. Wade is definitely somebody who I look up to. I also saw growing up, my Italian family, the Matthews, and I don't know if they're still here or not. I think I spent more time at Chad and Charlie and Patty's house than I spent at my house when I was growing up. I was on the Christmas list every year. Every year I had a gift underneath the tree. And so I really want to thank them for being here as well. There's some more people that I could identify because I've seen so many old friends and actually old mentors and old coaches. And so there's not enough time to recognize everybody. But when I thought about what to say tonight, I reflected a bit on the years growing up in Connellsville. So one of the first things that I really thought about is I'm glad there wasn't social media back in the time when we were in school. It might be a different situation right now for myself and some of my peers who are out there. So, but growing up, some of it was difficult, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I'm gonna say that every challenge that I faced, there was always something there was something in that situation that made me stronger, or somebody to actually support me. When my mother passed when I was 4, I was blessed enough to have support from 2 grandparents, one who is still living today, she's 101 years old, and a grandfather, as well as a father who was tough as nails. He definitely put me as number 1, but he did not spare the rod. And also there was a bunch of educators, particularly when I was in elementary school at Dunbar Township Elementary. And I didn't realize it till now. I think they were really looking out for me based on the situation that, with my mother passing away. It was Miss Kofsky, Miss Wolfslag, there were several, and I can name them all, literally from kindergarten through 6th grade. I feel like there was a special focus to make sure that I was doing the right things. I had several coaches as well, who pushed and supported me along the way. I remember when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I think Todd Baird is here, and you may remember some of this, running 100-yard sprints with, as a Dunbar Township student that was playing with the Dunbar Mules, I think is what our name was. And Joey, you guys might get in trouble right now if you made people run 100-yard sprints, and we didn't have any water at that time. But it made me stronger. Mr. McGlucky, he hasn't changed, and as I watched him running the program tonight, Mr. McGlucky was definitely one of my role models, and I don't know if he knows I'm going to talk about this, but there was a situation where we were at Junior High West. We were running sprints again, and there was a line, and every time somebody would come in last, Mr. McGlucky would say, that person was last. And there was a time that I was one of the fastest guys on the team, and I swore up and down that I went through the line. But Mr. McGlucky said I was last. And he just said, now, I don't know if you all see him do this, he said, Georgie Lewis, and his head's going like this back and forth. And he was so disappointed with me that I was last. And I didn't think I was, but what that taught me, and it really did teach me a lesson, is to always finish strong and never quit. So I didn't think I quit, but I must have that day. So Mr. McGlucky, you didn't know I was going to talk about that, but that is something that I will always remember, that you have to finish strong, you have to work hard, and that's one example of the many stories. And there'll be other stories that we'll probably have a chance to tell tonight when I'm with the guys, and we'll go into some of those later. But the truth is the foundation of most of my fortunate and blessed career, as well as some of the successes in sports, is grounded in my education from the Connersville area school district. I was prepared when I went to Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. The coaching and support that I received, because of that, I was prepared when I played football. I played early, and it wasn't because I was a better athlete. I was coached better than all the other guys that were on the team. So because of those things and the role models and the values that I had that had been instilled in me in growing up from a young boy in Trotter, 413 Ridge Boulevard. I can even remember my phone number at that time. 724, well, it was 412 back then, but 724-628-8976. I can remember that number. But all of the mentoring and support and help that I received has really helped me throughout my career. So as I close, I will not change a thing about my experience here in Connersville. The drive and determination that I have today to lead a college where the students at our institution are low income, first generation, they're underrepresented, and the families at my institution, their adjusted gross income, families, is about $17,000 a year. And so the foundation that I have received and the work ethic that I have received has really given me the foundation and the reason to fight for the students. So once again, I would like to thank the Falcon Foundation for this great award. Thank you all for being here. To all of my friends and family, I'm ever indebted to you. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the night. And I didn't say this, but I also want to congratulate all of my fellow inductees. So thank you all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shauna Little, and tonight it is my privilege to introduce Mr. Joe Galiardi. Joe won the WPIL tennis singles title back in 1953, and to this day, he is the only boy or girl to have that distinction. He led CHS's team to the WPIL Team Championship back in 1953. He played collegiately at Miami, Florida, and at Penn State. He also lettered in high school basketball for 3 seasons, earning all-section honors. Joe played a key role in launching Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and he was recognized by the City and County of San Francisco at City Hall in 1983 for his vital role in establishing MAD. His book, Hooked on Autographs, now in its 4th revision, has drawn rave reviews from the late, great Arnold Palmer and golf legend Jack Nicklaus, among others. The net book proceeds from his hobby memoir are donated to the Paralyzed Veterans of America, Bay Area and Western Chapter. Joe serves on the PVA's Golf Advisory Board and chairs their annual fundraiser golf tournaments to benefit the paralyzed veterans. Joe is listed in the 2017 Guinness Book of World Records, page 92, for having the world's largest authenticated autographed golf ball collection. He has 426 autographed golf balls. Latrobe's Arnold Palmer signed his very first golf ball back in 1989. Joe served 2 years of active duty with the United States Army. He was honorably discharged back in 1959 with the rank of Specialist 5. Joe is a member of the Penn State Varsity Club and the Saratoga Country Club. He and his wife Judy have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. He currently lives in Cupertino, California. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our newest member of the Falcon Hall of Fame, Mr. Joe Galiardi.
Thank you. Boy, what a nice introduction. I love your enthusiasm. Thank you.
I'm known for that, Joe.
Well, you know, little did I know when I graduated from Connersville Joint High School in 1953 that 69 years later, I would be standing here to be inducted into the Connersville Area School District Hall of Fame. I have so many people to thank for my being here. And I want to start out with thanking the Falcon Foundation Hall of Fame Committee for choosing me to be in the 2022 Hall of Fame class. I am truly honored, I'm privileged, I'm humbled, and I'm blessed to be an inductee today. I want to commend the foundation committees of the past for all of the inductees starting back in 2010, the inaugural year. My late brother-in-law, Louis Malone, was in that class, in the inaugural class. And Lou was the Major General, Commanding Officer of Walter Reed Army Medical Center, Washington, D.C. He passed away in 1988, too early, at age 56. But Lou Malone is considered and revered and probably goes down in history as the greatest commanding officer ever at Walter Reed. In fact, he was so well thought of that he is buried right next to the Walter Reed tomb. And I was there for the service. I want to congratulate, again, all of the honorees are with me today. I read your accomplishments. I was so impressed, and I just want to say to all of you, I'm so proud to be with you in the 2022 class. Thank you. I have a few words I want to say about a couple of my coaches. And I'm going to start out with my basketball coach, Joe Spack, who he instilled in me the importance of being a team player, always to believe in myself, never give up on the game, and that never give up the game came to being when I was playing in one of my very last basketball games in 1953 on our basketball court in the old high school. We were gonna, I think this is gonna be maybe our fourth last basketball game, and we were playing Uniontown High School basketball, the powerhouse Uniontown basketball. In my 4 years of playing basketball for Connersville High School, we had never beaten Uniontown High School. We're now in the fourth quarter. We are behind. And I can't tell you what happened to me other than probably maybe I had in my mind the words from my coach, never give up. With about 7 minutes remaining, in a span of 5 minutes, I scored 13 straight points. And we beat Uniontown 48-43. And I have to tell you, I've never seen the crowd go as crazy as it did that night. The fans up there and the stands were screaming. My basketball players were all over me. And I said, don't hug me. I'm not the hero. I'm just one of you, but we need to go and we need to praise and thank our basketball coach, Joe Spack, who had never beaten the Uniontown team. And that we did. And we went over, and I can still see us surrounding Joe and thanking him and congratulating him. And in all the 4 years I played there, and all the years I was with Mr. Spack, I never could see, I've never seen him happier in my life. And you know why? Because he beat the powerful, the mighty Uniontown High School basketball team. So it was a great way for me to kind of end my basketball season at Connersville High School. I want to say a few words also about my tennis coach, but first of all, I'm not sure that you know how tennis came about at Connersville High School. I transferred from IC into Connersville High School as a freshman. I wanted to play more sports than what IC offered. Maybe I was there maybe within 2 months, and I went to Mr. Doty, our principal, who incidentally is also inducted into the Hall of Fame. I went to Mr. Doty and I said, Mr. Doty, I think Connersville High School should start a tennis team. And he said to me, Joe, I don't think that's going to be possible. First of all, we don't have the money. You don't have a coach. And also, I can't make that decision. That's got to be made by the school board. Lucky for me, my mom knew Wally Shearer, who was on the board. She knew him very well. It had to do, I think, with politics, but anyhow, Mom called Wally, and she told him about her son, about his passion of wanting to play tennis and wanting to get a tennis team started in Connersville High School. And Wally was convinced to do that, and he convinced also the school board to have Connersville start up a tennis team. And we finally got one in 1950. Now we had to get a coach. John Daly, a great teacher, decided, I will step up to be your coach. He first wanted to meet us, and he did. There was just four of the players. And after he could see the passion we had and the interest we had in wanting to start a tennis team, he agreed to be our coach. But now he had the difficult task of setting up our matches. Well, there were no schools in Fayette County that had a tennis team. And only one school in Westmoreland County had a tennis team, and that was Latrobe. And their matches were already set for that year, 1951. So Mr. Daly had to go to Pittsburgh. And we now had to take on the big schools in Pittsburgh, the Edgewood, Tarentum. So here we go. We have our first match with the high school that won the previous year, the WPIAL team title, not Lemon. But the four of us got in the car with John Daly, and we went to Mount Lebanon tennis courts. I wasn't afraid. I felt good about my game. And sure enough, I won my singles. And Charles Moyers, who played number 2 for us, won his singles. And Charles and I, we won our doubles, and we won our first match 3-2, and we came home grinning all the way, and so happy for our coach, John Daly. I have to now tell you about the person who actually is responsible for me being here tonight. His name was Emmett Hicks. Emmett Hicks came from a slave family. He was born in 1884 in Virginia. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he came to Pennsylvania in about 1920. He was a great athlete, I was told. And Emmett had various jobs, but one of the jobs that he had was he took care and maintained all of the clay tennis courts that were here in Connersville. And what a lot of people didn't know is that there were a lot of wealthy coal barons that lived here, and they had their own tennis courts. And to have a clay tennis court required daily maintenance. And that's what Emmett did. He took care of all of the clay tennis courts. But the wealthy coal barons, the wealthy people brought in some of the very top tennis players in the nation. I happen to know for the fact that the greatest tennis player in the 20th century was Big Bill Tilden. He won everything. And Bill Tilden came to Connellsville in an exhibition. And so Emmett got his start in tennis that way. So here I am, I'm at East Park, I'm 12 years old. Emmett came to me and he said, Joe, I would like for you to play in the first junior tennis tournament of Connellsville. And I said, Emmett, I don't play tennis. I don't have a racket. And he said, that's not a problem. I have a racket for you, and we need one more player. And so I said, okay, out of respect for Emmett, and I saw him almost every day on the tennis courts, I played in the very first one. I won my first match. Now, I wasn't very good. How could I have been good? I never played the sport, so my opponent couldn't have been very good either because I beat him. But guess what? I'm now in the finals. You know why? Because there are only 4 players in the tournament. So I'm now playing Charles Moyers, and he beats me. But I learned something, because in losing that day, I actually won. Because that was the day that I got hooked on tennis. And I started to practice and practice and practice as long as the weather permitted. And Emmett Hicks took such a great interest in me that he gave me all the private lessons. We worked day and Saturdays and weekends. And I remember Emmett would come every Saturday morning to my home. And Mom would cook his breakfast, and we would walk to East Park. And Emmett would give me my lessons. And I think Emmett's joy came when I got to age 16, and I won Connellsville Men's Tennis Championship at age 16. Also at age 16 was the start of my winning 11 straight Fayette County men's tennis tournaments. And I can tell you, Emmett was so happy because he felt that he did everything he could at that time to advance me to where I was able then to go on and play in college. So today I thought about Emmett very much. Emmett passed away in, I think, 1966, and he's buried in the I think it was called the cemetery, Hillgrove. I had some friends who tried to find his tombstone, and they were unsuccessful. So I had to go up there today and to try to find it, and I had no success at all. But I tell you what, I looked and realized I couldn't find it. But I said a prayer today. And I thought of Emmett Hicks. At least I was somewhere in the vicinity of where he was buried. So today, what I want to do is I want to share my Hall of Fame plaque with Emmett Hicks, because I think, Emmett, thank you. I think Emmett is looking down on me today, and I can still see his contagious smile. I miss him. God bless him. God bless Connellsville. God bless America. And God bless Ukraine. Thank you very much.
This afternoon, I do have the privilege of introducing Dr. David Geary, who is a 1965 graduate of Connellsville High School, where he was a member of the chorus, president of the organ club, head basketball manager, treasurer of the Letterman's Club, member of senior council, and the National Honor Society. After high school, he attended Otterbein College in Ohio, majoring in English. While in Otterbein, he became active in the Air Force ROTC program, becoming the Cadet Wing Commander. He also earned Otterbine's President's Extraordinary Service Award and was a distinguished military graduate. Dr. Geary continued his education at West Virginia University, where he received a master's in journalism. During his postgraduate studies, he received a Reader's Digest Foundation grant to promote tourism in West Virginia. After graduation, Dr. Geary served as an Air Force officer. His first assignment was to establish recognition for an experiment that used helicopters for civilian rescue. He taught English at the Air Force Academy. He directed public affairs for the Air Force Worldwide Engineering and Service Programs, where he wrote the policy on how the Air Force would handle environmental issues. He later became Public Affairs Director for the United States Air Force Korea, and he became an Air Force ROTC professor and assistant dean at the University of Alabama. There he was named the university's outstanding advisor and received the George Washington Honor Medal from the Freedom Foundation. Dr. Geary retired from the Air Force after serving as acting public director for the U.S. Air Force Reserves. But then, that didn't stop him. He went on. Dr. Geary became the GS-15 Public Affairs Director for the United States Department of Energy Nuclear Weapons Complex with operations in 6 states. That just boggles my mind. It really does. Dr. Geary also served as Communication Director for Lockheed Martin Corporation's Advanced Aeronautical Design Facilities. He received his PhD with honors in Costa Rica, and he has received professional diplomas from the U.S. National Defense University, U.S. Air Force Command and Staff College, and the Foreign Service Institute of the United States Department of State. He has authored more than 50 articles in professional journals and has been on the advisory boards of Public Relations Review and flagship journals of the Public Relations Society of America. Dr. Geary continues to share his interest in his hometown by writing articles that have appeared in various local publications. Please join me in welcoming Dr. David L. Geary.
Well, what an honor this is. It is a privilege for me to be among you. I thank you for my selection, and congratulations to my fellow honorees. I rarely talk about myself, but this seems to be an exception. Above all else, I had parents who were terrific role models. My father played football for Connellsville and knew a tall, scrawny kid who sure could run. He was turned away from the team and urged to run track instead. His name was Johnny Woodruff. I have worked in many places. I delivered successes and received awards across 50 years in federal, military, and civilian service, as a corporate executive, university dean, professor and student, volunteer, consultant, and serving on 5 boards of directors. And I'm still working, still achieving. I get things done quickly and well, and enjoy a reputation as an innovator who has a lot of ideas. Any job I went into, I made it better than I found it. And along the way, I seem to make people feel better about themselves. But where did all this start? Was there a place and time in my life where all of this began to come together to set me on my life's path? Well, it was when I was in high school. I was a very busy student in high school. I loved to sing and play piano and organ. I was in chorus, chosen for county and regional chorus, and served as organ club president. I was in the official quartet which sang at school events and all over town. I wasn't athletic enough to play a sport, so I became head basketball manager, the team's statistician, joined the Letterman's Club where I was elected treasurer. I was on senior council, and I earned good grades. Through these activities, I learned how to interact well with fellow students, teachers, coaches, custodians, even reporters from the local newspaper. I began to learn how to be a leader
and nurturing ability to bring out the best in people. My teachers encouraged me. Some of them had taught my father, including the principal who had been my dad's football coach. I was chosen for National Honor Society based on scholarship, leadership, service, and character. Many years later, when I was chosen Public Affairs Director for our nation's nuclear weapons complex, with $28 billion in assets in 6 states, I oversaw more than 100 employees and a $30 million budget. I was briefing the Secretary of the United States Department of Energy. I was working late one evening and I was alone. There I was, someone from a small town in Pennsylvania with many responsibilities, many challenges, many problems to solve. I wondered, how did I get here? Was there one event, perhaps early in my life, that forecast this? During my high school senior year, the official score for home basketball games was an elderly retired teacher who sometimes missed games. I became the official scorer, controlling the clock, the buzzer, with referees and coaches looking to me for information. After the game, I had to immediately call the Associated Press to report the score and other information. I didn't think it about it at the time, but what a responsibility to give to a high school student. If my remarks make their way to today's high school students, I hope they realize their years here will set the stage for the rest of their lives to discover who they are, the person they want to be, and to work for it. The more they interact with good people of all ages, the more they get involved in different good activities, and the more good grades they earn, the better their futures will be. After all, as I learned, life's road really begins in high school.
It is my pleasure now to introduce Judy Keller. Judy is someone that I've known for many years. We taught in the school district, and I've seen Judy, as all of you have seen Judy, in so many places in the community because she's always busy, whether it's church, whether it's city, whether it's taking on the endeavor that Bob referenced earlier about the Veterans Wall. Judy's a person that if she says she's going to do it, she'll be there, and she'll get it done, and she'll get it right. And so it is my very good privilege to introduce Judy today to this class of 2022. And I talked with Judy a little bit about some of the things that made her do the things that she's done in her life. And one of the things that I really knew before, but became more apparent to me, was that Judy grew up being the daughter of parents who were very, very fine examples of leadership. And they instilled in her this importance of public service. Her father was the late Herbert Road, and her mother the late Jean Road. And Judy and her parents, as a family, they served the Connellsville community and the Connellsville city in particular nearly 50 years. They held positions as city treasurer, city controller, and served in various positions on city council. Judy told me something that I think all of us can appreciate. She shared that being an elected official is a little bit like being a little league coach. She said you really only do it to help people, and like a coach, while not everybody is going to be in favor with all of your decisions, you serve them with the best of your ability so that the decisions you make are good for the team or the community that you're working for. And I thought that was a very wise statement, Judy. I appreciate knowing that. Judy has done so many things in the community, all very vital things in the community, both in Connellsville and for the Connellsville School District. And her interests have been very, very varied, and I'm sure she'll share some of this with you soon. But her most recent endeavor is one that she said has been very close to her heart. Judy is someone who pays attention. So she said she noticed in going around local communities that they all had an honor roll. And so she and her husband Bob decided they were going to drive around, and they went to all the local communities around. And my goodness, they all had an honor roll for their veterans, those who served and gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. But Connellsville did not. So Judy sought and secured support to make that happen. And if any of you get the local Courier, I hope you look at last night's papers right through the front page, an example of some of that support Judy got. And even though this project is moving a little slower than anticipated due to some difficulty securing grant for this, Judy is very proud of it and knows that in the near future, all that she and other people who've helped her have done will help Connellsville have an honor roll for their honored veterans. It will be located at the end of Pittsburgh Street by 119. You can see it in progress down there now. And it's giving overdue recognition to more than the 250 area men who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And thank God for people like Judy Keller, who gets an idea and sees that something that important happens. I introduce to you, with my pleasure, Judy Keller.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you to Beverly Ackerman for nominating me. It was totally unexpected, and I'm very grateful. And thank you to the Falcon Foundation Committee for selecting me to be a member of the class of 2022. Congratulations to my fellow inductees, and I'm very proud to be here with you for this ceremony. And thank you again to the members of the Falcon Foundation and to all members of the Hall of Fame for the work that you have done and continue to do to make the world a better place. I believe spending our formative years in the Connellsville community and attending our local schools had a very positive impact on who we are and what we may have accomplished. I received a quality education and have very fond memories of my days at Southside Elementary School with wonderful teachers like Miss Bixler, Miss Harrigan, Miss Trier, Miss Cochran, Mrs. Ream, and Mrs. Foley. And the same can be said for my secondary teachers like Wilmer Burkholder, Milton Allison, Merle Peck, Mrs. Beatrice Keller, Perry Culver, and Miss Loretta Galiardi, Miss Catherine Zimmerman, Miss Eleanor Rowland, and Mr. J. Frederick Hunter. I also salute my band directors, Mr. James Hamaker, Ron Scott, and John Sloan. My teachers in my community prepared me to take the next step to higher education, and I was accepted at both American University and George Washington University in Washington, D.C. in the School of Government and Public Administration. But home is where the heart is, and I chose to take a different path, stayed local, and I'm very glad that I did, because I had the opportunity to work with and be with and meet so many wonderful colleagues and students, both at Junior High East and at the high school. I'm also very grateful to the Connellsville community and former residents who have donated so very generously to our Veterans Memorial Honor Roll project. And I am honored to serve with my fellow committee members. Connellsville has a rich history, and we should not hesitate to share the pride that we have for those who came before us. So this old history teacher feels compelled to share this information with you. The National World War II Museum in New Orleans is massive. It covers approximately 5 to 6 acres of buildings and exhibits. It includes a 4D film produced and narrated by Tom Hanks. The title of that film is Beyond All Boundaries. This film begins with these words. In the weeks following the Japanese attack at Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941, Americans from Connellsville, Pennsylvania to Austin, Texas, stepped up to do their part. I spoke with the curator of the museum earlier this summer, and she told me that the reason they mentioned Connellsville in this introduction was because their research had shown that Connellsville set national records for Marine Corps enlistments in the first 4 weeks after Pearl Harbor. That is just part of the reason that I was inspired to create a written memorial for the 145 men from our area that made the supreme sacrifice in World War II. I was recently informed that my book, Respect, Honor, and Remember, Connellsville area veterans who made the supreme sacrifice in World War II, has now been added to the library collection inside the National World War II Museum. I stand here today because of the guidance, love, inspiration, and yes, discipline that I received from so many wonderful people in our community. First and foremost, to my parents, who endured the hardships of the Great Depression and the heartache of World War II. To classmates, and friends, both far and near, who continue to inspire me. And a special thank you to my husband, Bob, for his love and encouragement. I've always been inspired by those who came before us and built this nation, and also to those who fought to defend us and to defeat tyranny around the world. They faced challenges that were extremely harsh, and I am humbled and honored to accept this recognition in their memory. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be emotional. I'm sorry. Thank you again.
It's my honor to introduce Krista L. Kinneer. She is a graduate from Connellsville High School in 1993. She then earned her Bachelor of Science degree from West Virginia Wesleyan in 1997. She then went on to earn her master's degree in microbiology from WVU in 1999. Krista is a research scientist with a career focused on basic cell biology research and development of antibody-based therapeutics for treatment of cancer. As a scientist at the CDC, National Institutes of Occupational Safety and Health from 2000 to 2004, her research focused on liver function of signaling pathways underlying dioxin toxicity, for which she and her team received the NIOSH Alex Hamilton Award. She then joined the biotech startup company MedImmune to design and discover antibody therapies in their preclinical cancer research program. From 2004 to 2020, her work was focused on the development of antibody-drug conjugates, a type of drug designed to selectively deliver toxic chemotherapeutic agents directly to tumor cells. If you get the chance to talk to her about this, it's fascinating, you really should. She can really explain it in detail, and it's amazing what she's doing. Over the course of her career, Krista has initiated and led several programs that had advanced to human clinical trials and have shown promising activity in patients for which standard therapies have failed. She is appointed Director of Tumor-Targeted Delivery Oncology Research and Development at AstraZeneca in 2020, and then Director of Oncology Transitional Medicine in 2022. She has authored more than 20 scientific research articles and is a co-inventor on multiple patents and is a passionate advocate and mentor of junior scientists and students, especially women and underrepresented minorities interested in the science, technology, engineering, and math. Please help me welcome Krista L. Kinneer as our newest member of the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Beth, for the kind introduction. And
you may be relieved to know that I won't launch into a science talk right now. We would be here for a long time. But very happy to talk about it afterwards. If you're really interested, I'll tell you all about it. First, I want to thank the Falcon Foundation, not just for this honor, but for all of the work that you're doing to support the students and the teachers in the Constable Area School District. I also want to, really recognize my fellow inductees, congratulate you. It really is such an honor to be recognized in this way. I can tell you that as a graduating senior from this high school in 1993, I never dreamed that my plaque or my name would be listed in the Hall of Fame. And so it really is an honor. And it's really, amazing to think about the other honorees. When I look over and reflect on the honorees whose plaques are hanging there in the hallway outside this auditorium, I'm just really awestruck and inspired by their accomplishments. As I reflect on those honorees, I see a common thread, a commitment to service, sheer determination, and a lot of hard work. And these are hallmarks of everyone that I know from Fayette County. And so although I think that this area, sometimes it get a little underestimated. I think people's expectations aren't where they should be for folks who come from Fayette County. But to me, this is no surprise to hear that we have lecturers in Oxford, we have scientists in NASA, we have professional sports heroes, we have, Olympic gold medalists. This is really no surprise to me, and I'm really just so happy that there's this venue to share with the students the kind of talent and achievements that can be made, even when you're from Fayette County, which is a place that I'm very proud to be from. When I think about the values of the people here from Fayette County, these values were certainly instilled by me, by my parents, Neil and Donna Kinneer, who are here tonight, as well as my grandmother, Alva Seiske, who's also joining us here tonight, as well as countless teachers, 4-H leaders, and others who help support and encourage me along the way. Some examples and names that I want to call out in particular are, administrators and principals like Mr. McLucky, teachers like Mr. Wandel, who was a fantastic math teacher and really inspired my love of math and put me on this path for a career in STEM. Teachers like Mrs. Hatfield, who was our librarian and / student counselor, really had a genuine interest in all of us and was so much fun to be around and really made a big impact on my life. Mr. Mo Stutzman, who himself is a Hall of Fame inductee, for all of his work, with the chorus and the musicals, and really, showing us that we can do anything that we put our minds to. Thanks to their care and sacrifice, I've had the freedom to pursue my education, and then go on to develop a career in science and be successful at it and really find a lot of joy in it. I'm also grateful for my husband, Roger, who himself is a scientist. He's a neuroscientist at the National Institutes of Health, along with my mentors and colleagues at AstraZeneca. Together with their support and encouragement, I've been able to continue to develop as a scientist and also develop as a future leader in the pharmaceutical industry. Thanks to teachers like Mr. Kiefer, I was also able to converse in French, with the locals on my first trip to Europe. I'm also grateful for the support of my brother David, who's here tonight, my sister-in-law Jessica, and my nephew Miles. It's really great to see them here in the audience. And when I think about Miles, my hope is that by seeing my name or my plaque there in that hallway, students like Miles and other students in the hallways here at Connellsville, I hope that they see themselves and realize that there's really no limits to what they can achieve and that they can do anything that they put their minds to. I'm really humbled and proud to be recognized in this way. So thank you again for this honor. It truly is an honor. And I would just say to Mr. McLucky and the Falcon Foundation, please let me know if there are ways that I may be able to help contribute to future generations of scientists here from Connellsville Area School District and help develop the next generation of scientists from Connellsville. So thank you all for this honor.
Dr. Richard E. Shearer, nominated by Linda Shearer. He was a minister, educator, soloist, farmer, and a pilot. Dr. Shearer graduated from Connellsville High School with a class of 1937. As a Coker, he had a special interest in forensics, and he was a winner in an extemporaneous speaking contest and a member of a very successful debate team. During high school, he met Ruth Mansberger, and she became his future wife. They were the parents of 3 children, Patricia, Richard, and Suzanne. Dr. Shearer went on to become an ordained minister and an educator. He earned degrees from Eastern Baptist College and New Brunswick Theological Seminary, and master's and doctorate from Columbia University. In 1951, after pastoring several churches in New Jersey, Dr. Shearer accepted the position to become president of Alderson Broaddus College in Philippi, West Virginia. At age 30, he was the youngest college president in the United States. His basic philosophy of leadership was, a good education will provide power, but it takes a good religion to give that power direction. Under Dr. Shearer's leadership, the majority of Alderson Broaddus campus was built. It grew from only 3 buildings to a hub of 14. Alderson Broaddus hosted the very first baccalaureate physician assistance program in our country. Under his leadership, off-campus and overseas study programs and athletic programs were started. Alderson Broaddus became a nationally recognized institution for a quality education. Enrollment increased dramatically. In the center of the campus stands the Shearer Quadrangle, dedicated to Dr. Shearer for the many structures that were built under his administration. His legacy can be seen across campus in countless ways, which has left an indelible mark that will not soon be erased. Dr. Shearer was an avid aviator, and he piloted his small plane around the state and across the country, staying connected with Alderson Broaddus alumni. He became known as the Flying President. When talking with his cousin Linda Shearer, she described her Richard as the epitome of professionalism. He was never seen on campus without a coat, shirt, and a tie. He even rode his tractor on the farm wearing that outfit so he would be ready to go to the college if called upon. Linda also stated that Richard was small in stature, 5 feet 3 inches tall, but he could fill the church at Philippi with his voice that was bigger than life with his solos. When talking with his daughter Suzanne, she remembered her father as having a big heart. He was blessed with many gifts from God, and he used those gifts to honor him. Suzanne also added that her parents knew every single student's first and last name on campus, and also knew their parents by name. On his last visit to Connellsville, Linda took him to visit his alma mater. He was thrilled to see the piece of steel that was dedicated here at our high school. By the way, Linda Shearer, that is a member of our foundation, she headed that project to bring that piece of steel here to our high school. Dr. Shearer was so proud of Connellsville, and he loved having students from his hometown enroll at Alderson Broaddus. He was president for 33 years until his retirement in 1983. In 2015, Dr. Shearer passed away. He and his wife, Ruth, are buried here, right here in Connellsville at Hillgrove Cemetery. In closing, I would like to repeat his philosophy. A good education will provide power, but it takes a good religion to give that power direction. Dr. Shearer not only stated that philosophy, he lived it, and it gave great meaning to his life and to his work. Suzanne, please come forward and accept the plaque for your father.
Well, I draw the short straw, so can y'all hear me, or do I need to pull this down? Pull it down a little bit. How about that? Is that okay? I'm so glad, maybe even to be last today, because I can just hear my dad saying congratulations to you and bravo to you. That was one of my dad's favorite after watching an exhilarating musical performance on college or anywhere, or an honor given to somebody. So bravo from my dad, and thank you all so much. I do want to thank you for inviting me here today. I am so happy to be able to be here to thank you personally for selecting and inducting my father, Dr. Richard Shearer, into the Hall of Fame of the Falcons Foundation. You know, as has been said, this honor can be bestowed upon so many. So many have come from your community and through these doors that deserve this honor. So thank you. And my dad has passed, and it just shows that from generation to generation, what you all have done through people here, it expands and it goes on and on and on from generation to generation. My sister is in Illinois and my brother is in Texas, and they are here in spirit as well. Dad's grandchildren are Montana, California, Kansas, Tennessee, all over, and they know that you are honoring my father, and thank you so very, very much. My dad's story began in Connellsville. My grandma and grandpa Shearer worked and worshiped here all their lives, and they were a family that served, believed, and were sustained by their faith and by this community. Dad's family loved music, and they had a family quartet. It was my Uncle Paul, my Uncle Howard, my grandpa, and my dad. And they loved music, and they sang at church all the time, and they sang at home all the time around the piano. And it was just a love of music. I'm the only of the three kids. My older sister, I'm the middle child, and my younger brother. My mother was quite a musician too, could really play the piano. I just barely learned to play the piano. But as my dad got older, I would work all week and go up and spend weekends with him. And I started digging out music, solos that he had sung, and different music. And I wasn't good at all, but my dad would go, I just look forward to my concerts, my nightly concerts from you. And I just want to tell you, I ran across the alma mater from Connellsville. He had this, in his music, and I learned to play it, and he loved hearing it, and it was played every weekend of life that I went home and spent with him. Another favorite of his was Bless This House, and a cute kind of story. Kids on campus will remember that usually the final convocation, Dad would sing Bless This House at the final convocation before the students were leaving for summer vacation or a break or whatever. Now, we remember the beautiful voice, and maybe they do too, and the words. But to them, as they would repeat to me later, it meant, we're going home for a while. We're out of school for a while, and we're going home for a while. I also, in finding music, I ran across, it's called The Beautiful Garden of Prayer. And my grandmother had written on the top of this that this was Dad's first solo at the Connellsville Baptist Church at age 10. So, and to talk about his voice, honestly, when he went to seminary, he said that he tried out, and that they said he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough. And so they said, you need some training. And so he said, okay, I'll do some training. And then he became their premier soloist, and he sang throughout his life. I want to speak to the past, and thank you for honoring that, and I honor it as well. But I want to speak to you all here today too. I want to speak to the present, and I want to speak to the future, because that is the impact that you all have, we all can have from generation to generation. What wonderful gifts we are given to do that. We are given the gift of time, so cherish it and make each day count. We are given the gift of family, of friends, of life, of community. You are here, but we are given this gift through our lives to teach people, to nurture people, to have people that embrace us, to plant those seeds that we've talked about, everybody up here has talked about, and giving us roots and wings. We have been given, and we have, the gift of love, the gift of faith, the gift of care, the gift of kindness and prayer, and the gift of the Christ child. And these are gifts given to us that we can give to others to strengthen not only ourselves, but to strengthen others and encourage others. And they're God's promises to us so that each one of us can accept our calling, whatever that may be, and the challenges that come with it. Dad always valued and appreciated all those that helped each of us become. Dad wrote a couple books, really after the age of 80. Talk about making every day count. And he also wrote a weekly article for the local Barber Democrat, our local paper. And they let him write about anything, and it's just a column that he wrote. And he did that for 6 years. And I think it ended at age 90 or 91 that he wrote that. He had some sickness. He actually asked me to help him write some of them. And I'm like, Dad, I'm not the writer in the family. But I did so that he would keep going, because otherwise he was going to quit then. So the one book was called Oyster Stew. And I'm going to leave a copy. I don't know if anybody wants to, but it's all about Connellsville. It's all about his family here, his growing up here, about the high school. The other book is called Just What the Doctor Ordered. When Dad was a pastor in New Brunswick, New Jersey, he had a radio show, and it had music, and it was to shut-ins and people that couldn't get out, but he called it Just What the Doctor Ordered. I want to just read a little bit about what he wrote about teachers. The impact of teachers. It's one chapter in his book, Oyster Stew. Tribute must be paid to the impact of teachers, especially on my life. He says he came from Poplar Grove, a 2-room school, to the high school of 1,200 students at Connellsville High. And it was a giant step, he said, for me socially as well as academically, because he said I still had the duties of a farm boy. So Mrs. Swan asked me to be sure and tell you this story because she called and we talked for an hour about all these stories. So she mentioned, I think, that he had cattle and he just got into that and wanted to do that. And then he was on his tractor and they baled hay and did all of that. But he would drive the tractor sometimes to Alderson Broadus and park it in the president's parking lot. And my brother and I, we all went away to school for a year because we've been raised on the college campus, and for our own growth and development, we went away to school for a year. But Mom and Dad said, we would be so proud to have any of you come back and be graduates of the college. So I came back from Bethany College, and my brother came back from Carson Newman College in Tennessee. And my brother was mortified when he would go on campus and he would see Dad's dirty tractor parked in the president's parking lot. But my mom and Dad had very different feelings about these cattle. My mother would get a call, your cattle are out, you need to go get them. And she'd call my dad and say, Dick, the cattle are out. My dad was like, I love those cattle. I go, they don't talk back to me. They agree with everything that I want to say. So they had very different perspectives. But getting back to the teacher and the impact of teachers, Dad went on to say, and it's been mentioned, that he was challenged by a teacher here in high school to enter a speaking contest. He didn't feel at all that he was up to it, but the teacher encouraged him. And she said, I will even stay after and work with you. If you work hard, I will stay. And that's the kind of teachers you all have here and the impact you make. So they did. And my dad says in the book, that began my leadership role in several other lively aspects of high school life. The debate team, as has been mentioned, memorization of scripture, and sharing it in regular high school assemblies, and the leading role in the class play, Smiling Through. And I just happened to bring, here's the cover of Smiling Through. I guess I want you to know, I know you can't see it, but as I went through things and we went through things, I just couldn't discard all this. It has meaning, and because of you all, and family and everything. Also, it has been mentioned that in 2013, I came up and my son Derek from Nashville drove up and we brought Dad to Connellsville. And yes, Linda brought us into the high school and we got to see, he had so much pride in his alma mater, and we got to see the artifact in the lobby, and that was just wonderful. I still have our picture of when we were here, and he so enjoyed that. Dad's calling was a lifetime of ministry, preaching from the pulpit, singing at all occasions, and leading a college community, Alderson Broadus College, which is a neighboring school to West Virginia Wesleyan. I just realized that sitting there. They're what, an hour apart maybe? Yes, a well-respected school. And Mom and Dad were very close to the president, Dr. and Mrs. Stanley Martin at West Virginia Wesleyan for the whole tenure. But they came to AB with the firm belief that parents and students should have the choice and value of a Christian higher education, as Mrs. Swan mentioned. My mom and dad just believe that there should be a choice, not just public education. Now, AB's a small private school, but their belief was strong in that, and they never wavered from that. And my mom was right beside my dad every step of the way. She was a college professor and taught education and was right there, like they said. They met in high school, they married, and right there. The way this happened, and a little was alluded to, the trustees, I don't know how, but they found out about my dad, who was pastoring a pretty large church in New Brunswick, New Jersey. We kids were all born there, and we were under the age of 6 years old when my dad took the presidency at AB. But they came, and they pretty much said to my dad, you either make this institution grow and go, or we close the doors. So that was the challenge that was given. And again, I get back to the gifts. Faith, vision, family, community, mission, parents, a team to work together, students, donors, professors, staff, churches, on and on and on. Dad didn't seek recognition or honors, but some did come his way, of course, as the college grew. And Mrs. Swan mentioned some of the programs. The first 4-year PA program in the nation, the first 4-year nursing program in West Virginia, a 4-year rad tech program where most programs were 2 years, the overseas program, and off-campus experiences where students could go off campus for 3 months their junior and senior year and get a start in working in their field. Many students ended up getting jobs where they had served this internship. They would get jobs with that. But he didn't seek recognition, it just came. I wasn't supposed to come in last night. I'm retired, but I get called all the time to work. I work in a hospital as a social worker, case manager with stroke patients, etc. And I had to end up working yesterday. I tried to leave Huntington, West Virginia at a decent hour, 4 o'clock or whatever, and I thought, if I make it as far as Clarksburg or maybe even Morgantown, that's going to be good. But I felt good, and the trip went well for me and easily. So I ended up coming in last night. And as I passed the airport, I couldn't help but think how many times we flew into Connellsville to visit family. And yes, that's okay. But most of all, I just want to end with, there was a brilliant rainbow as I drove in, and it was so vibrant. So I know Dad is here in spirit. Thank you all.